Morning, church. Am I on? As Pastor Craig indicated, we, three of us or four of us are in the men's ministry, and we thought it's very important that we bring men at the forefront. You know very well that we have a crisis on men in Kenya and in most of the societies. It's a new dispensation that men don't know how to fit in, so we are encouraging men to come out and be involved, particularly in church, in matters of God, because that's where they're going to get their meaning. When men find their meaning and purpose, then societies become better. So we've been running a men's ministry. Our objective is to create a safe space where men can come and share. You know, men are very, very private. When you hear things that happen to men go into depression, men commit suicide. But the interesting thing is that you ask, I was with him last week. I didn't see any sign. It's because men are very private. And then, you know, as men grow older, they kind of retreat to themselves. By the time a man is 50, he has lost most of his friends, and he has a few friends who don't even know him. So, so men, like anything else that we cherish, need to be taken care of, and that's why the purpose of the men's ministry. We also want men to be physically involved in church activities, mostly missions. You know, the life of a church is missions. If a church doesn't have missions, then it really starts looking inward on itself. And you know, all lakes that don't have an outlet, what happens to them? They become salty. And part of our life comes from missions. And we want men to be at the center of missions. There's a missions team here led by Martin here that we are working with. We have a number of churches in Chicago, isn't it? Chicago that I think about 4 churches that we are building their churches. If you see what they're trying to build, you know, very, very humble. And we said, as men, we want to collect maybe $1 million shillings and then drive our muscle cars there and take our muscles and what God has blessed us, and then build the churches, and as we talk about the matters of God. And once men say that you either use them or lose them. If you don't involve them physically, you actually lose them. But so this message that we have today is not just about men. We are going to focus on men, but it's for all of us because God has called us to a very special purpose. I have an interest in the science world, and I'm reading about genetics and ecology, just to realize once you delve in those topics, you realize how complex a human being is. And then you start wondering how mighty God is. Because one human being has 3.6 billion genetics. That's why cancer is so difficult to heal, because you don't know which one of those 3.6 million is actually misbehaving. And that tells you how complex we are. But now we are developing what is called sequencing machines that are able to sequence those 3.6 billion cells to be able to actually now customize medicine for a particular person, for a particular cancer. Very interesting. But what are we saying is that God is very unique. None of us looks like the other. God has given each one of us a special purpose that is unique to us, unique to our gifting. But more often than not, we spend most of our lives running away from that purpose. And what happens that when we run away from that purpose is that our lives become difficult, we get disaligned with God, and we go to depression, we go to anxiety because we don't know who we are, and we are living outside that calling. So when you hear the men, so we have 2 tournaments, we have 2 events. We have a golf tournament coming on the 6th of October that is going to raise funds. Please, if you play golf, man or woman, please come to with us at Karen Golf Club. And also we are going to do a climb, first starting with Gong Hills, and then later we are going to do a more difficult climb as we raise funds. When you see men, I hope that some of the men ushered you today, and I hope you noticed them. Maybe you didn't, but we also wanted to lead worship. We had come up with a lineup. I was supposed to be at the keyboards. Mongela was supposed to be the drums, and Casper was supposed to be the lead guitar. And Pastor Craig looked at the list and said, we need 6 months to practice. And we thought, but the spirit is there. Everybody is asking, why are men under siege? It's a new dispensation. Women have made a lot of strides over the last 20 years. I mean, there are a lot of empowerment, which is good for them because I think we were suppressing really the ability of women and the potential for women. But as men, we've not found our footing in all this new setting. All the indicators are showing that men are not doing well. I have, in part of my work, I got data from the Kenya National Examination Council. And the transition, even at the primary and secondary level, for once, the last 2 years, for the girls, more girls are transitioning than boys. Meaning in another 20 years or 15 years, we are going to have a crisis because we'll have girls who are very well educated and prepared with no men to marry them, that have a college education or are skilled. And that's, I mean, I'm a father of 3 girls and I've put in a lot of work. I can't imagine. So it's a crisis and that need to be addressed. I mean, the government is worried that a lot of our men are spending a lot of time either drinking or in drugs, just purposeless, without any purpose. And it's become government wants to put money in it to see. But as I was looking, I was saying, you can talk to them, you can remove the liquor, but they'll go to drugs, which are more secret. But if you don't lead these men to purpose, then you still have men who have a stormy heart and are still going, because they are in pain, they'll still find ways of alleviating that pain with either drugs or alcohol. You know, another big hemorrhage that we are having is men who are retiring. You know, it's very quiet, but it's causing a lot of damage. Men, you know, I called my broker about insurance broker, and I asked her, I couldn't get her. When she called back, she said, you know, this is June. We are busy in June. I asked her, what's happening in June? Oh, most men in civil service are retired in June, so we're always ready. The moment they get these letters, they start admitting themselves to hospital. You know, and it's a very, they've been covered by this job for the last 40 years. Now, all of a sudden, they are given this slip, and they don't know how to respond. So most of them end up in hospitals. And after they are released, you've never seen, it's like life is sucked out of them. Women at 60 have chamas, they are in missions, they have this network of, as a man you wake up, you don't realize your identity was your job. And then all of a sudden, then you're left in the house. Then the women now, their children have finished college, and one is in the US, is having a baby. All of a sudden, the wife wants to go to. So you're asking, how come they don't do 2 invites? So men are left in a space where they don't know themselves. And what happens that, on average, men are dying about 3 or 4 years after retirement. And why is because I think we've not found our purpose. I think we were supposed to read, if you read Psalms 1, and I hope they can put Psalms 1, it summarizes what a man of all seasons is supposed to be. Are you able to put it up, Psalms 1? Or is it there? Let me just find whether I can find my version. If you read Psalms 1, you find, I think, I'm not sure whether it was written by David, but you can see this is a man who had gone through life and was very, very deep. He had observed life, and he said, if you want to be a man of all seasons, then you've got to be aligned with God. So blessed is a man who does not walk in the step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on that law, gives it attention, and thinks about it day and night. The person is like a tree planted by the streams of water. This is critical. Whether they lay you off a job, or whether you're in the next season, you're not supposed to fizzle. Why? Because your roots go deeper than a job, than an identity. And this is what this psalm is saying. That if you want to be a person of all season, then you've got to be anchored on something bigger than what surrounds us. And this is what they're advising. Which yields its full fruit in season, because you've got to be yielding. And when you retire and you're not yielding, even the people around you realize that you're not yielding. And what happens is that people separate from you. So it's a question of yielding in every season, and whose leaf does not wither. What a great promise. Whatever they do prospers. I mean, is this true, or is it just a knowledge? Whatever you do actually prospers. And these are some of the promises. The Bible has more than 500 promises. If we took the promises that we be given by the Bible literally, then Christians and people who know the Lord are supposed to be the most productive people in any environment that you go into. Why? Because we've got discernment. We are not alone. Our ideas don't come from ourselves. We are connected to a bigger being. Now, that's what we negate, and we come. I mean, if you look at the worship that we had, we've sung very good songs on the attributes of God. But we take those attributes and take them to our work environment, to our homes, so that we can become better people. So today we are going to speak about purpose. I haven't been on a pulpit for almost 18 years, and when Pastor Craig threw this at me, and I said, this is a difficult one. Give me a motivational speech. I think that's much easier. So today we are going to speak about purpose. And when we say men, remove men and put it to ourselves, because purpose is all about ourselves. One of the biggest challenges as studies being done is that in postmodern is that we are transitioning from our traditional frameworks to the postmodernity. Every tradition, every culture, even Kikuyu, we had our own tradition of preparing boys to men. It has to be intentional. It was never by mistake. But as we have transitioned, that gap now is no longer there. I know the Maasai used to take boys and take them to the forest, and they will not give food. You're supposed to go and hunt the lions, and you're supposed to hunt the antelopes. By the time you come back, you know how to fend for yourself, and you're proud, and you're taught how to be a warrior. When you come, you stand straight. I don't know whether you've ever spoken to your Maasai watchman. He looks at you right in the eye. Why? It's very deliberate. They are trained for that. The Kalenjin, I know, they also did the same. You know, a certain missionary was giving a story of the Amazon tribe, and they said he was fascinated when he went to the Amazon forest, and he found this ritual where the young men are taken to the Amazon River just before the falls, where the current is swift. You know, that's where most of the fish are as they are going around deciding whether they are going to jump over the falls. But that's where also where the bugs are. So they are taken and put there where the bugs are with their bare chest and backs, and they are told, today without 100 fish don't come out. So he watched them sit there, and for you to spear a fish, you've got to be restless, you know. You've got to be, you can't move until you spear. And they say, you do that 100 times. He's saying by the time they had 100 fish, their backs were red, you know, swollen and bleeding. Yet the old men will not give in. They say, if you don't have 100 fish, don't come out. So he asked them, why that kind of punishment? He says, you know what? Our future depends on these young men. If we don't train them on how to be focused, on how to deliver results, on how to protect the community, then the community is finished. So they have to do this again and again until they learn how to ignore pain. Because purpose is about pain. And we'll be reading more about that as we go along. Well, men, this is not new. Men have searched purpose for generations, you know. Men have searched for purpose over many generations. Victor E. Frank, who is a Jew, who was in the horror camps and survived them, is a celebrated American Jewish psychologist and author. He wrote the book, and if you've not read it, please look for it, Man's Search for Meaning. And the book was a bestseller because it sold millions of copies, and it was translated to 38 languages. And he has remained a top seller even today. Why was that? It's because we are all looking for meaning. If we could find that word, I'm a previous Catholic. We used to touch our heart and say, Lord, just one word, not two, one, and my heart will be healed. Who remembers? No, we don't have enough Catholics here. So we used to say, and actually it's true, we just want one word, yeah? But after much search, we realized that purpose, as we try to translate into one word, is a process. It's a journey. And I think the whole journey of the Bible it's about purpose, and we'll be looking at that. So, what is a man of purpose? It's a man who is aligned. Remember, not purpose first. It's alignment. It's about the relationship. You know, man has been estranged from his God, and you can never really realize your purpose until you're first aligned. And the biggest battle between us and God every day is alignment. You know, for us, our heart and his heart, our relationship to be right. The whole of the Bible, the whole stories, you can, even if you go through the whole book of Isaiah, he's trying to get us back to us. He's saying, God, it's a love story. He's trying to tell us, come back. We can do much more. But we still keep on running away so that we can try to do it with our flesh. And I'll show you both the benefits of being aligned with God and delivering with God, and also doing it on your own flesh. So it's a well-aligned, a man who is aligned well with God, with a call to pursue a God's given passion, and you become a person of all seasons. You know, purpose, you know, it's easy to say maybe I'm called to be a doctor. That's more of a vocation. It could be part of purpose. But purpose, you'll find that in different seasons, God calls you to different things. And you've got to be ready for those different things in different seasons. I mean, if you look to Abraham, he had a number of seasons, but in every season he was true. And in every season there was preparation. Same thing with us. In every season there's going to be preparation. And most motivation books, that's what they leave out. They call you at purpose. What you can think you can do, you can achieve. We even bought a book called Secret. It had a hardcover. We thought, I don't know, how many of you have it? Is it only me? Yeah, I mean, and you know, publishers are cruel because what they do is that they will put the motivation bit at the front, and if you put the process at the front, they tell you, remove it. We want to sell books. So they take it at the back, or they actually remove it. So you get motivated, and then you are left, when you try it and you find your giants, you're wondering, didn't I read the book right? And it is because God was not, yes, God is about purpose, but it's more about process, because the process is about the relationship with him. And we'll go through the process to find out what God wants with us. So what is God looking by giving man purpose? Once he gives you a purpose that is unique to you, God is looking for a small new race. That's why he called Israel mine. This is my race. I want to do great things with Israel. And you know, through Abraham, we've become the new race. So he's looking for a new Israel in us. People who are aligned with him, and who, because there are so many worldly problems that he can use his people to actually actualize that purpose. That's what he's looking for. Men who shall trust God, men who shall live by faith. Remember the famous verse by Martin Luther, the just shall live by faith. But for you to be able to come and say that, then you'll have been taken through a process. Because we first understand all these things by knowledge. We start by knowledge. We understand them. Oh, God can do many things. He's mighty. He provides. He protects. But it's first all knowledge. How do you take knowledge to conviction? God takes you on a journey. And that journey, he takes us through every day until we come to a point of faith where actually it's no longer knowledge, but a conviction. And once it's a conviction, it says, now we can go and work. Before that, we can't do anything, because if I send you where I'm sending you without faith, then you're going to be destroyed. They always used to say, never go to war with a horse that is not broken. Until a horse is broken so that it can know obedience, never take it to war, because it's going to get you killed. The same way, if what we are asking as our purpose and we are not ready, and we go there and we embarrass the Lord because we'll go in and fall into despair. We'll go into depression. We will not be able to take the fights. So God is looking for three things in us: faith, and once you understand faith, automatically you get what is called rest. Why? The storm in our hearts now comes down. Why? Because we appropriate the more than 500 promises that the Lord has given to us. And that's the rest that man is looking for. Until you have rest, then the communication between you and your Lord then starts happening when you have rest. But as long as the storm continues, where you're wondering about tomorrow, where everything information is about anxiety, then the communication stops. And you will not have the rest that was promised to Israel. In Hebrews 4:10, the Lord says, "For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from his own work." You don't get rest from your own works, but you get rest from a relationship and understanding your God. Let us make every effort, this is Paul telling us, to enter into that rest that was promised to Israel. But they rejected it. But through Christ, it's been promised to us, so that no one will fall by following their example of rejecting this rest. So God has been pursuing men since time. He has not changed. He has remained the same, only changed the covenant of visitation to occupation. God is the same. The message has been the same. Come. We speak together and then go for exploits. He has not changed. It's only that the old covenant, God lived in the temple. You went once into the temple to sacrifice and for atonement. And for years, that's how Israel did. They went to the temple. And you know, the holy place, it was called the Holy of Holies. It was so holy, it was covered by a curtain. You know what? It's deep theology. I'm not a theologian. But what would happen is that only the priest would take your sins, understand your sins, and then the priest will wear their robe. You know, it had bells at the bottom, and they go in. You know why it had bells? Is because at times he would be smitten and he'd fall. It would even have a rope. You'd pull him and find out whether he's alive. So that was the Holy of Holies. But when Jesus died, what happened? The curtain cut into two, and all of us now have access to the Holy of Holies. So the relationship, you don't have to go through anyone. The relationship is direct. It's no longer a place. It's now occupation where it's in you. The kingdom is among you. God will keep on bringing men into impossibilities until they answer. You know, we can say, you know, this purpose thing, I think for me, I don't think I'm interested. I have my life. God will come for you. He will throw all these issues into your life. He will make sure that you don't rest in your nest until you ask me, so what do you want with me, Lord? Until you answer that, then he will come for you with all manner of issues in your life. You know, the biggest purpose story we are told is of Israel from Egypt to Canaan. That's the biggest story of purpose. And we can learn a lot from that. And you will see that Israel was not allowed to cross the Jordan until they answered one question. Can the Lord lay a table in the wilderness? Because until they answered that question, then they were not going to trust the Lord in the battles that was lay ahead of Jordan. As long as they didn't trust the Lord, they were not going to be brave enough to fight the giants that were across the Jordan. So the Lord worked with Israel to show them miracles until they answered the question, can the Lord lay a table in the wilderness? When they said yes, I think now they were allowed to go to cross the Jordan. Okay? Now, you find that all of us, even when we are called, we come up with a good idea, we see the vision, we are excited, and then next week we say, what should you do on Monday? You're excited, you start with your vision, you know it's God-given, and if it's God-given, whether you're a missionary or a businessman in the marketplace or whatever, you're excited, this is a God-given dream, then you start. Then all of a sudden you see the giants. The people who you thought were going to be excited about your vision are no longer excited. You have your relatives who are telling you, are you mad to do this? You have society telling you you're not able to. And if your foundation is not right, then like Israel in the middle, they said, let's appoint a leader among ourselves. We need to go back. This God will kill us in this wilderness. He brought us to kill us here. And it's because they were negating all the promises that the Lord had promised. You know, the same way that Israel was brought to Kadesh Barnea. Kadesh Barnea is just before the Red Sea. I've not been to Israel, but I think they said it's before the Red Sea. There was mountain on this side, mountain on the left, and the sea in front of them. And the Lord was doing this very deliberately. And behind them was the Egyptian army. So they were caught in the middle. And they said, we are going to die here because we have no way out. But Moses told them, no, be still, and see the salvation of the Lord. And for true, the sea parted. Once the sea parted, they crossed. And the Lord said, now, these people are going to trust me. They've seen big miracles. Then after about a week, they ran out of water. Then they started complaining again. Look, the children are crying. How come we don't have water? We are going to die. Again, Moses had to go and tell them, can you come down? The Lord can provide. And actually, water came out of a rock. That's the same thing that happens to us. We see the Lord do mighty things in our lives, but in a week, in a month, we are forgotten, and we are still asking, can the Lord lay a table in the wilderness? And you know, that's a question. Until you say yes, then your purpose will only remain a dream. And this is the biggest thing that the Lord is looking from us. Just to come to a point where we can say a yes. We can actually work because we know the Lord will show up. So what happens when men are papas? When men are papas, by the way, they come down, they are focused, and they become better people in society. Society becomes better when it has men who are papas because they don't become destructive. You know, these Tommy men that we are seeing in our society are creating a lot of havoc. Most of them don't know how to deal with these empowered women. So we are seeing a lot of violence against women. And why? Because men don't know their purpose. And they just get frustrated in this place where now a lot of what is called masculinity privileges are actually eroding away. And out of that, they become bitter. And if we are not careful, these men, they cause a lot of injury in society. So we have to continually tell men that you're not threatened. Actually, your purpose is bigger. You actually have a better mate now because she has income. When two walk, two are better than one. When one falls, what happens? The other one picks them up. So you are actually in a better position than before. But men, until they find their calling, until they find their purpose, will always find that they feel threatened when their partner is doing much better. So they make better husbands, they make better society. So for ladies, the best thing that you can do is that you must continuously, purpose to actually lead your husband to his purpose every day, if you can help, because that's the only thing that is going to give him salvation. So in the book, we look at Joseph and David and Nehemiah. The only person who the Lord realized that the people he does not take through a process then make very bad leaders. And that's what made Saul not a very dependable leader. So people like Joseph, David, and Nehemiah had to go through a process that prepared them to be leaders. And that process was not easy. And men who built nations, like America, it took 52 men to just say, we are going to be a man of purpose. We are no longer going to be slaves. We are going to sign the Declaration of Independence. It took men who can say, I think our purpose is bigger than what we are living under. And it takes that kind of conviction to actually make a decision that God honors. And the interesting thing is that when you go to the Bible in Kings and Chronicles and read the story of the kings, you'll find that every time Israel got a king who was aligned to God and was focused on God, Israel prospered. The same way, if you get a man who is godly, your home prospers. Now, when you get a man or a king who is not godly, the nation suffered. So, take time and read the story of the kings in Chronicles and Kings, and find the ups and downs of the nations and how God dealt with them as they went through different kings. King Solomon started with a lot of wisdom, was called the wisest man. And people thought he'll finish well. But in the middle, he thought, I'm just too good. And what did he do? He ended up with lots of concubines who brought their gods, And what happened to Solomon? By the time he was finishing, God was unhappy with him. And because God loved David and had promised David to take care of his lineage, the best that he didn't even punish Solomon during his reign, because Solomon, I think, built the temple. But during Rehoboam, his son, God actually remained true. Israel was divided into two through a civil war. And it became now Israel and Judah. And Judah was made of the two tribes of Israel, the Benjamins, what was the second? Morel, do you remember the second tribe? I think you are the theologist. So it was made up of two. So we had now Judah and Israel. And it is because of what Solomon did. Now, we see a king like Rehoboam, who had seen his grandfather David live such a godly life and become a man of exploit. Rehoboam had seen all things and had been influenced. So he started well. Even when he was attacked by a million army, he was not shaken. People who know their God are very brave. When you go and actually attack a man who knows his God, he's very brave. And when he got a million army from Ethiopia attack him, you know what? He was not shaken. He said, it's no longer my fight. It's a Lord's. And you know what? Rehoboam was able to overcome a million army with a smaller army. And that's what the exploits that God is able to give his people. But Rehoboam, towards the end, also, at some point now, he got another attack, and instead of calling on the Lord, he went to Syria to ask for help, calling mercenaries to come and help and fight his fight. And what happened is that actually he lost the fight. So we see kings like Abijah and Asa. We'll not go into detail, but basically what we are saying is that when kings and leaders and husbands and men are aligned with God, their homesteads, their societies become better and thrive. And when they don't do, the opposite happens. Evil takes over. When men neglect the pursuit of their purpose, they become anxious, aggressive, and depressive, and at the extreme, very suicidal. It is important to encourage the men in your life and find their purpose. This is a new online father of men who don't have fathers. He's called Jordan Peterson. He's in between a Christian and a psychologist. But he says, the best cure we can do is to ask men to actually follow their purpose. The love story of men's purpose. The purpose of men has been a long love story between man and God. The whole Bible is about the love of God chasing after man and demonstrating his love. This relationship started at the Garden of Eden, and even the women are not there. This love affair with God, even the women were not there. They found us in it with its own issues. You people know about a relationship. If you get involved in a relationship and you try to solve their problems, what happens? They patch up and then you're left and you become the problem. So this is a complex relationship between man and his God. So women found us in this love story. And wherever, women out of our love, women love their sons and they love their men. So they have always intervened to actually, when they see their man suffering, they intervene. Even at the Garden of Eden, they said, why does he have all the knowledge? Even you, I think, you could know these things. So that's how we ate the fruit, and from there we've had issues. So we are always saying, lead us to our purpose, but don't interfere, because when you interfere, you always know things don't always go right. You know, even today, as God blesses you as women, there are women who are saying, okay, I'm going to take over all these expenses because he's my husband. I love him. There are mothers who are saying, I'll keep my son until he's 40, until he finds his purpose. You know what? You're interfering in the process that God. Don't pay all the bills for that man. Put the bills next to the remote. So that when I'm picking the remote, I see the bills. Because I know you love me, and I know it's out of love, you care for me. But the moment you take away what gives me pride as a man, you've destroyed me. So I'm saying, every time the women have intervened, things have not gone well. So don't, even in modernity, don't intervene by saying, I'm now old. Become a good pillar of supporting this man from a distance, but don't try to replace his responsibility by taking them over. You know, just to give you an example, is that how do men fall out with God? Someone like Saul, it's obedience. Someone like Saul was not taken through a process. So he was full of himself. And Samuel told him, look here, I have work in the kingdom. I can't just stay with you in the palace. But he told him, if in case you are attacked, I'll be 7 days away. If you just wait for 7 days, I will appear. We will sacrifice and we'll win the war. And Saul, because, remember, Saul was appointed because of Israel asking for a king. So he had never been taken through a process like David. So Saul, in his impatience, he waited first day, second day, wait, Samuel, I've sent a message. The third day, we are now surrounded. We are now running out of food. The fourth day, my soldiers are defecting to the enemy. The fifth day, you know, we now can't make it. And on the sixth day, he says, enough. I'm not waiting any longer. Bring the calf. And he put it on the altar and sacrificed. The moment he sacrificed, who comes up the hill? Samuel. And asked him, what have you done? I thought we agreed that you wait because of your trust in the Lord. I was not going to be more than 7 days away. And from there, it was downhill for Saul. He rejected God and started going to the witches for advice. And you know how he finished. You know, Samson was supposed to be a judge in judging Israel before the monarchy. But what was Samson doing? He was using his strength out there among the Philistine women. And you know what happened to him. You know how Solomon ended. So that's how men lose their purpose. So because of time, I'll go and tell you then, what are the steps that God takes us through while he's leading us to our purpose? I think we have 15 minutes, isn't it? So a quick one. We've seen that men don't believe because of 4 things. One is sin and unbelief. And if there's anything God wants to completely destroy in your heart, is your unbelief. As an environment that socializes you and you're not sensitive to the issues of men, of God. Comfort zone. Once we get a comfort zone, and this is the biggest thing, once we get a comfort zone, we don't want to get from there. We surround it we hedge it. But who is God? He'll come and take you from that comfort zone and shake your world until you start seeking for your vision. Wrong personal identity. Most of us have not taken the identity that we've been given by the Bible. Who are we? We still respond to names. I still surprise men who are called boy, you know, or everything is in a name, you know. I like being called names that affirm me. Father of so and so. By the way, I'm 30 years married this week now with Mary. 30 years. And I was telling her that we've got another 40 to go, so she should be ready. And I know she can call me babe or something, but I always say, call me a name that affirms me. that gives me a lot of meaning, that reminds me of my responsibility or who I am. It's okay to call me a pet name, but remind me who I am when you can. Now, lack of mentors and models in our society also makes us not be able to be focused. But God doesn't leave us. I mean, it looks very complex, but God has had a very clear path of our destiny. And by the way, once you understand this path, you will always know where you are. You know, it's like a compass. Once you understand this path to your destiny, at any one time you'll understand. So I will give you a path. And you know, the path, we will look at a quick look at how Israel went from Egypt to Canaan. What are the principles that we learn from there? And if you take down these principles, you'll always know where you are. So what is a purposed journey? Now there are 6 steps. I hope I can finish them quickly. The first step is that God will call you out. Wherever you are, God will call you. He'll keep on calling you. Just he called Samuel. And when he called Samuel, Samuel went to Eli to ask, did you call? The same way God is calling you today to your purpose. And who you respond to, be sure that you don't respond to Eli, respond to God. I don't know who Eli is in your life, but respond to God. When God calls you, respond. But when you respond, he'll do 3 things. The first thing is that he'll make you recognize your separation from God, and he'll want a reconciliation. And that's why we get saved. Then we accept the Lord's calling, and the strained relationship gets finished. Then, by the way, we experience the goodness of Lord immediately. I don't know whether you have realized, people who got saved even perform miracles. God is for some reason, he's very, very, very easy with them. So it's just to affirm them. That's the first step. Then the second step is that he gives you a calling. You start having a stirring in your heart. That vision that you had starts germinating. And because all of us have it, it's only that it's suppressed. In fact, someone was interviewing ladies who work in bars, and they're saying, what's some of your biggest challenge? And they were saying, having to sit down and listen to visions of drunk men. Because they all have visions. At times it's the same one, or you can come with a different one tomorrow, but they have it. So meaning that we all have visions. It's only that we are suppressing it. So we stop responding to the general narrative, and we respond to our vision. We become aware of our gifting. Because now the Spirit is flowing, we become aware of our gifting and a deep-seated passion and a dream. And that's why people who are passionate, you find that they becomes almost abnormal, because it's a revelation. I must get this done. I remember that quote, give me Scotland or death. This was by Frank. I mean, it's someone who is saying, Lord, if you don't give me, I'd rather die. That's conviction. You're so passionate about your vision. Then we become aware of God's promises. And once we become aware of them, then we see the possibilities. Then we overcome loved ones, friends' opinion, resistance, and some resign from our job, some will move from where they are to become missionaries. So people actually take steps once you become aware of this, of your calling. The most difficult one, and we don't want to mention it, and this is where the one people want to hide it, is that you see how rosy it was? God calls you, he tells you we are friends, we can do all these things. You know, these are the possibilities. I will protect you, I'll be with you, then he just throws you in the wilderness. And this is the most difficult part of a calling. Because the wilderness is a pause to give you character. You know what happens? Once you've taken the initial trust, at some point the voice of the Lord just goes quiet. Does not mean he's not there. It just goes quiet. So you've taken a loan, you have resigned, you told everyone you're starting a new business, customers are not coming, the 7 relatives you thought will buy from you don't want to pick your calls. Your wife is asking you, did you hear this or this was your... And then the landlord is calling, the bank every so often calls. You know what? Just like Israel, we start seeing the giants, and they look huge. Now, this is where, if you don't remember, if you didn't come with your identity, you are certainly going to go back. Why? Because you'll think this is your reality. It's what Steve Covey calls a paradigm. You are seeing things in a certain order. Because you've made your God so small by forgetting his promises, then what happens is that the giants look as big as possible. And you join Israel in saying, the land is good, it looks like it's full of milk and honey, but it's impossible. It's full of, but that's why you serve an impossible God, who is able to overcome impossibilities. So only Caleb, the spirit of Caleb and Joshua, came with a positive report. So unless you have the spirit of Caleb and Joshua, you are certainly going to break down or go back, because the wilderness, remember, there's no water, there's no comfort. And this is where most dreams die, you know? And a lot of other leaders or preachers would want to tell you, like the damage that was done by prosperity gospel. They tell you, they actually removed the issue of wilderness, and they said, once you see it and you point it, next day, or they're giving 2 days, it will be here. And that's a damage they did because they didn't tell us about the wilderness. Because it's a wilderness that carves us, gives us character. And it's the one that removes our unbelief and gives us the belief and introduces us to grace, which we are going to speak about. So we are going to be handed over to death, just like Jesus was handed over to death. And unless a seed dies, nothing is going to germinate. It cannot bring forth a new life. So we encounter our valley of dry bones. And as a businessman, I've been in my valleys in my life a number of times. And I know valleys can be dangerous. They can be lonely places. They can be places where you are, even your own spouse will not understand what you're going through. But God promises, when your mistrust ends, your wilderness is over. Once your unbelief ends, your wilderness is over. As long as your unbelief continues, then every so often God comes and checks. Where are we in terms of the gauge of belief? If you're at 60, you say, looks like he needs another 6 months. So we say, put him back. And that's why Israel ended up with 40 years in the wilderness. So the quickest way is to use the wilderness to actually trust God. And once your trust reaches a certain level, God will say, we are wasting time now. He's ready, let's go. Okay? But many dreams have died in the wilderness. And then, in the wilderness, actually your dream is taken away. The dream dies completely, and you can't even see its vision. And you know what? God is waiting for you to take the dream and hand it over to him and say, let your will be done. Just like Jesus reached a point, he said, let your will be done. If I have to choose between the dream and the vision and God, I choose God. And God is excited about that. And the same thing he did to Abraham. He says, oh, that child of the dream, where is he? Yeah, now I want him. What do you mean? You said I'm going to be a father of millions, of nations, and it's only through this child. He says, yes, bring him. I want him. He's looking for obedience. And that's why when Abraham was going up, some people will not understand some of the things that you're doing when you're in the wilderness, because you're hearing different things. That's when Abraham told the team that he had come with, says, so you are here while me and the lad go up and worship the Lord. Why? He knew if he took this team, they'll not understand why he's trying to murder his son. So he left them down there and went there because their level of consciousness and understanding was not enough to understand what he's trying to do. So you'll come to that point where you actually now give up your dream to the Lord. So we are introduced to endurance and loneliness. And then when you come to the end of yourself through brokenness, you are left with nothing but a total reliance on the Lord. And you say, Lord, it's your dream. We discover the power of faith, trust, and sustaining power, secret of grace. What we don't understand and what we forget is that at the right time, the Lord always shows up. He's always showed up. For the last 60,000 years, for the last, I don't know how many years, the Lord has always showed up. He's never failed, just like the Son has never failed. He always shows up. But because we can't wait, we will reach a point where we go back. And that's why he was saying, what do I do with these children of Israel? They know that I always show up, but they can't believe me. Whatever miracle I do, why don't we destroy them and come up? Moses says, no, please, don't destroy them, because if you destroy them, we are going to be a laughing stock to the other tribes. And today, that's what Jesus does to us. There are days we prostrate ourselves and say, oh, this Lord has forgotten me. But if it was the old covenant, the Lord would come and say, really? After all that I've done? But Jesus becomes our mediator. He says, no, leave him. This is just a process. So after that, you have to come to the level of Habakkuk where you say, you know what? Whether the fig tree gives fruits or the wine matures in its season, I don't care. I only have one care. I will trust in the Lord. And once you reach there, then you and God are aligned and your divine order is complete. So sanctification. So once you come from the wilderness, you're usually tired. A lot of things have happened to you. You could have lost some things. It was a big lesson. God takes you to a point of rest in sanctification. We are introduced to the Lord's rest to recover from the wilderness. The Lord restores us physically and spiritually. We have a new relationship with the Lord through conviction. You're no longer the same level. When people say the Lord can't, you don't even say anything. You're quiet because you know the Lord can. Because it's no longer, you know. In fact, faith has finished its work. Because you're no longer living by faith. You're living now by knowledge. Once you are at a point of knowledge, faith has accomplished its work. Because you're no longer believing, now you know. And once you know, you become a dangerous person. Why? Nothing becomes impossible to you. You'll be speaking of things that people think you're mad. I say, I can do this. So they ask, on what basis are you saying that? Because I know. And they're saying, on what basis do you know? I just know. And you go to a different level. And that's sanctification. The Lord resurrects your dream. He always gives you a dream back. But once he gives you a dream back, it's no longer the same dream. It's bigger, it's better, but now it's no longer about you. It's about the Lord. So the dream was never lost. It was never lost. Remember, Isaac never died. You know, the Lord always provides. So the dream is given back to you because you've passed the test. We experience a new relationship with the Lord and a deeper dimension that only us know. Then then after that, you are taken to the valley of the giants. You've crossed the Jordan now. You've got to go and fight the Amalekites and all the challenges that come with the business. But you know what? You're fighting now with a new knowledge. You're full of energy. You believe the Lord. If you're a missionary, many people are coming to the Lord. You're expanding your ministry. And by the way, it becomes very easy. You don't even know what you're doing to your business, but it's just growing. Why? You're in a new dimension. You're completely different. You and the Lord no longer have issues. You are now expanding the tent. Okay? And that's a wish of of us to be in that place after we are done with the wilderness. And when you come here is when now they are called the mighty men of God or women of God. Once you've come to your sanctuary. So the next, we trust the Lord, we fight, we believe, we appropriate grace in full. Each obstacle becomes an opportunity to see the Lord's faithfulness. You know the way people are saying life is hard, every obstacle you see tomorrow, why again? No, for you, every obstacle you see, another opportunity for the Lord to come through. Okay? I have 3 minutes, I need to finish. So that's where you come. So from there you go to impact. We experience an unprecedented growth and blessing in our calling. Our tent is expanded. We experience miracles and strong Lord's presence in what we do. We seem to grow our tent effortlessly without any effort, and many people are impacted by our anointing. people look at you and say, oh, what's so special about this man? And instead of waking up to preach, you preach with your life and say, look at what the Lord can do. And you impact a lot of people. Then, once you've many years of success, you start again, like Israel, getting comfortable and saying, guys, do you see what I did? I think I'm good. Can you see the ministry I've built? In fact, you say, I think I need to become a bishop now. You know, or an apostle, I think, which is better. You know, all of a sudden now, again, because we are human, our shift comes from the Lord to you. Look at my business. I mean, look at what I've done. You know what? The Lord says, I think it's time for a new calling. Just like he went and told Abraham, you know what? Let's pack up. A time for a new season. Why? A bigger dream, but bigger preparation. So the cycle starts again. A new devil for a new level. So the Lord will never let you. But it's a beauty. But now when you go to the new vision, you are more of an experience. You are, traveler. Why? Because you understand the process. When you go to your valley, you will not cry. You know it's just a matter of time. And the Lord, this will be done, and then we'll go to a new. And once you do that, you become very calm. You become focused, and you do great exploits to the Lord. You're not waiting for someone to give you a pink slip and then you collapse. No. Because So, really, just to finish, that's a cycle that God wants to, and it's what He's been telling us. This is a process I want to take you because we want to do great things. From eternity, that's a simple process of 6 steps that He's asking us to go through. But like you see, when God tells you, let's go, you take off. You see some of you and the prophets took off and say, God, not for me. What I experienced last time, no. But we should not refuse. We should get in because we understand, because the Lord will still bring us back here. Why the Lord chose to take this kind of a process to prepare us, we'll ask when you go to heaven. For now, our work is obedience, to go through the process and become mighty men of God. So, what is the role of women in encouraging men in the pursuit of, as mothers? As mothers, you must remember that your words, men, we give our children character, but we don't give them inspiration. By the time your son is 18, you and him don't see eye to eye because you've impacted character and there have been a few fights. So mothers have a big power. Be careful. Mothers have to be careful what they tell their children because they remember and the impact. I don't know when you see these silly movies, when a big robber or a burglar is in a bank and is shooting everyone, the police always look for one person. They say, does he have a mother? And when they bring the mother, they say, Johnny, come out, I command you. And the guy starts arguing with the mother, they are going to kill me. He said, no, I'm here. They will not kill you. Because for all these years we are programmed so mothers, whatever you tell your sons will determine about their purpose. Just to give you a big story, this is not biblical. Alexander the Great was supposed to be called Philip the Third. But the father, Philip, was a warrior and he was not sure this was his son. So while he loved Alexander because of his ability, he was not sure this was his son. So every so often there are times when he would be very cruel to him. So Alexander, in disgust, went to the mother and asked him, I hear a rumor that this is not my father. And the mother had to be what would you tell him? This is a father he knows. But the mother was very, very careful with the words that he told her. She didn't tell him, yeah, he's not your father actually. There is another man. What she told him, you know what, Alexander? Yes, it's true, he's not your father. But you know who your father is? Yeah. Who is it? He said, the god Zeus. This is not Christian, it's just a story. But if you go to the history, you find she told him, because she knew whatever word she says, is either going to destroy this child or not. So your father is Zeus. Really? Zeus is a god of warriors. He's a god of the Greek god. And when Alexander got this new identity, he says, really, are you sure? Yeah? So no warrior can kill me. The mother said, no, because of who you are. And he says, we are done. From next month, I'm off. And now we have got 16 cities across the world called Alexander. Why? Once a mother gives an identity to a child, it's very difficult to. But if you tell your child, actually, I'm not sure you'll make it. Done. He will always remember that. Okay? And wives, next to mothers, it's wives. A wife's words can destroy you or make you. You know, the world can beat me and tell me anything. But when I come home and Mary tells me, you can make it, do these people know who they're joking with? Those words encourage me. And whatever the world says, I will fight the world. As long as when I'm coming home, I'm getting focused in who I am, in the identity. But again, if your own spouse tells you contrary, it's very devastating. You know, again, to give you an example, I think it was Cleopatra who, I think once the Romans beat Africa, you know, Carthage was the first army that was supposed, through Hannibal, will have overcome Rome. Africa will have overcome Rome. But because of some government bureaucracy, Hannibal was not able to attack on time. But it will have been history because the civilization now will have come to Africa. But because of certain technical, Hannibal was told not to attack, and he lost the opportunity. But you know, once Carthage was destroyed by Rome, Carthage, I think, was part of Tunisia today. It was a huge kingdom. I don't know where we lost that civilization, but once they lost, then the Romans came now with all their armor and destroyed Carthage. History says not a stone was left on top of the other. They destroyed because it says this Carthage was going to destroy. And in the process, Pompey was left behind in Africa to take care of Africa. And Pompey got in love with the queen of Egypt. I don't know whether it's Cleopatra or one of them. And so he was maintaining. And every time he would come and say, you know what? I've beaten the Bedouins now. They are under Rome. But one day when he came and said, I've beaten them, the queen said, just stop. Who are you? And you, Pompey, the great soldier, mighty soldier who has seen war, what are you doing? Fighting with the Bedouins. And by the way, look at you. Why do you respond to Caesar? What do you have? What does he have that you don't have? You know, men with our egos and saying, okay, you mean I can become Caesar? He says, yeah, you can become Caesar. And Pompey changed. He said, okay, Caesar has to go. Because, you know, I have been told. And from there, he put an army that marched to Rome. And that's how the civil war started in Rome. And the kingdom was split into two. Why? Those two stories are telling you the power of the word of a woman. Not of man, of a woman to either his son or the husband. Because of this, our prayer is that we are going to have many men wake up and pick up their purpose and say, you know what, I've been built for something bigger than this. Not anxiety, not depression, not identity. I've been built on bigger things like this. And we're going to have men in KVC who are going to do great exploits because they understand the process. They understand who they are, and they have got wives who are encouraging them. And that's what we are prayer. And today, what we want is to have every man who is in this room to stand. We want you to stand so that we can pray for you. We can pray for your purpose. We can pray that in these few words, we've been able to actually articulate the process. Because the future is this men that you are seeing here. And Pastor Craig will come here and pray for the men. That actually we have started a seed, that seed is going to grow into a big purpose. And if you are next to your man, it will be good for you to stand and just put your hand, because the success of that man, the purpose of that man, will hold his hand or whatever it is. But you know what? Commit from this prayer that every word you give to that man will be words of encouragement, of leading him to your purpose. And we said, don't interfere, just encourage that man.